What's up, y'all? Hope everybody's well. Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. What's good, Malika? I'm listening. What's happening? Joe, what's going on? Freddie? YouTube streets been real busy today. Coming on a little later than I normally do. Wasn't trying to step on too many toes. Just had something I wanted to get out real quick. So we'll see how it go. Hope everybody's well. You know who it is. We're talking today about the reason Black males are subjected to undue disrespect. And the context is relationships. I'm not a relationship counselor, nor do I aspire to be. I'm not an advisor. I will occasionally make observations, especially when they seem, linked to some of the experiences and historical narratives we talk about. So, if I got to get it in, I'll get it in. Anyway, today kind of came out of three conversations I had with three different brothers. It kind of caught me off guard. They all happened organically. Wasn't exactly preparing for a show or anything, but each one was a trip. So the first conversation with a colleague of mine, real good brother, real good heart, brilliant cat. Brilliant. Well, yeah, in reality, all three of them are brilliant, so that just is what it is. But anyway, I was talking to this brother. He's a little younger than me. And he was talking about an experience he had in a relationship. And he came to realize in retrospect that he had only once dated an African-American woman, which tripped me out. They all been Black, but he just made an observation. He said, I didn't realize till this very moment that, I've only been in a relationship with one. And he said the thing that he could not wrap his head around, and he wasn't trying to, he wasn't trying to pathologize African-American women. He actually came to this observation very slowly and almost kind of sadly. He didn't want to do it. But he said, I got to be real. He said, the only time I did, he said she had this thing for fighting with him. Right? She had this thing for arguing with him, physically confronting him. Right? She took joy in it. She got excited about it. It lifted her. And even sometimes turned her on. But it was a constant. And he's a real laid back cat. He just did not really have the patience for all of that, But it was nonetheless, that was her thing, She was just deep off into it. So, he used to try to get her to calm down. He tried to get her to talk it out, so on and so forth. And even he actually said it happened a couple of times. She tried to physically dominate him, not only in terms of fighting, she tried to sexually violate him as well. She got off on trying to dominate him. And, at the point where he left her, she actually, was broke up about it. She cried and even had her friends call him. It was, he was real tripped out about it. But the thing that got him, though, was he couldn't understand where this need to argue, fight, and compete came from. And when he finally did get her to answer once, he said, I asked her about it once, and one time he asked her about it, and one time she gave an answer. And she said, this is just what I saw. What she saw in mothers and grandmothers, it was just what she grew up with. This need to compete, fight, and dominate men. Now, the catch-22 with that, and a number of brothers and I have discussed this one, it's interesting to see. The catch-22 is that if she does dominate him, she doesn't respect him. If he doesn't let her dominate him, she keeps trying. So he said that was his experience. I took it at face value. I, thought about it. I'd experienced the same. We vibed on that, kind of left it there. I didn't plan on, doing anything with it. Then I spoke to another brother. He's about my age, very recently. Well, all three of these were recent conversations within the last week, but this was more recent. He and I were talking about it, and he was telling me how in his relationship, his wife is also inclined to be abusive, sometimes physically, but more often than not emotionally, psychologically abusive. And when he explained where her motivations came from, because he said this has been going on for over a decade with her, over a decade, intense disrespect. But the interesting thing is he said it didn't happen until after they got married. And this is what I was talking about. I think a couple of weeks ago, I made mention of this. A lot of people, men and women, have subconscious beliefs about marriage that sometimes they're not even aware of. And once they get married, it's like flicking a light switch. They flip on and try to become who they imagine they're supposed to be. And they begin to expect things from the person they're with, even if they've never articulated that they needed those things. And it can become highly toxic if somebody refuses to come to grips with their own behavior. So he said she just became more and more abusive, confrontational, constantly talking about how he failed her, even though by societal standards, he did way more above and beyond the average man, significantly so. Climbed up to, one of the highest positions you can climb up to in his particular arena. It still wasn't enough. And that was the thing he said. He said nothing was enough. There wasn't anything that was enough, no matter what he did. So that was the second one. The third conversation was the strangest and the funniest at the same time. This is an older brother, good brother of mine. And he actually told me about, he's been married several times, but he told me about in his first couple marriages, this is back in the 80s. He told me that, the first two women he married, sisters, and all the brothers I'm talking about here were dealing with Black women, American Black women at that, which was, it is what it is. But he was telling me his first two marriages. He said both women were so confrontational, even physically so, that they tried to fight him on a regular basis. This was back when he said he was, just starting out. He didn't have a pot to piss in, as it were, and they used to get offensive. And his response at the time, he told me his response was he used to put him over his knee and spank him in the 80s. And I was like, what? Like, I had to rewind that. I said, what? I mean, I've heard of groups that get into that, BDSM groups or whatnot. He was like, nah, it was just something I did. And I was like, well, I'm just curious, what was their response? And he said, well, more often than not, they either went in and made me something to eat or wanted to have sex. I said, oh, so this was like a sexual thing you were doing? He was like, no. He was like, I'm completely serious. I got tired of them trying to physically, assault me, fight me, whatever. I just put them over my knee and spank them. And, when I asked him if he would do that today, because he's married now and he's happily married, I got to say, and he said, hell no. He said, I didn't have anything back then. I had nothing to lose. He said, now, it's a different era. He was even very apologetic about, even having to recall that time period. But he said, I'm at peace. He was like, I don't spend 5 minutes dealing with someone that would even seem like they would put me in that kind of position. And he said, on top of that, I wouldn't want to lose 30 years of building up who I am going to jail over something like that. What's my point in raising these three stories? It's not to denigrate. It's to really get at the heart of a form of disrespect that far too many Black men have communicated to me about. Casual conversations, private emails, hallway conversations, students from high school, middle school at that, hell, my son. And it's frequent. It's really frequent. So, in each instance, I'm kind of asked where this comes from. Where these kind of things come from. And I got a couple of theories that I'm going to share with you. But I also wanted to kind of give you some visual examples of it from two very different positions, right? Two very different ones. The first one And then these are both off social media. And the interesting thing is they came across my desk in the last few days, both of them, which is interesting because this whole week I've just been seeing constant displays of disrespect toward black males. And I just figured, you know what, I'll kind of bookend what we're talking about with these two videos. So the first one I'm going to play is dealing with a mother and a son. All right, so let me get it in. Here we go. Fair use.
Jaden's room, and under the bed I found this, which is a squishy, sticky thing that I think is a pussy. And I think he's been sticking his little penis in it and using this. His stroke it right jack off cream. He's sticking his little penis in his fake little pussy.
Yeah. So this woman got on social media to make fun of her son. It's ridiculous. When I first saw it, I was livid. I was heated at the, just the violation of his privacy, right? Knowing full well, if he went into his mother's room and did a video on her dildo, she'd be livid. But some of the brothers in the comment section made an observation that was even more poignant, right? They pointed out how if this was a father who found his daughter's toys and made fun of her on social media, the internet would be in an uproar. And the reality is the comment section for that video were mostly comprised of women laughing. Now, this is a young man that is either in, could be early puberty. I don't know. He could be in his late teens. I have no idea how old he is. This is fucking ridiculous. But I think more to the point in terms of today's conversation, what I said in each instance, and I didn't mention this in the with the older gentleman's definition, because he said the same thing the other two gentlemen did in regard to why his, first two wives were so combative. He said that's what they grew up seeing. That was the definition of womanhood. The measure of womanhood was how much grief you could give your man. And this is something I've seen. I've seen this in movies. I've even seen it in real life occurrences, right? Where you'll have women like in your family, like the elders in your family. And when they try to tell you, which woman is good for you, if it's a woman that gives you grief, that likes to argue and get in your face, they like that. They'll commend that as strength. Oh, I like her. She doesn't take your shit. You need to get with her. I've seen this. Seen it in family, seen it in friends, seen it in associates, seen it in media. Somehow this idea of being strong, which I think it's a fetish really, but this kind of this definition of strong black women has become synonymous with abusive argumentativeness and combative behavior. This is the definition of strong. And of course, the famous phrase that many a man has heard, she needs a man to be strong enough to handle her. And I'm quick to tell people, you handle cattle, you handle dogs. I don't handle people. You need to be adult enough to handle yourself or nothing, right? But the point it is, that video is, you can tell at least two things come out of that in terms of what men learn, especially her son. And I hope that brother is getting support elsewhere, because what she did was just ridiculous. But one, they learn very early not to trust women if that kind of thing is occurring. If your mother is willing to do that, you learn not to trust women quick. The second thing you learn is that to many a woman, especially the way they're socialized, focusing, primarily on their own identification with strength, which is usually a masculine definition, which is ridiculous. Which is ridiculous. Some of the strongest people I've known were women who were actually rooted in a definition of strength that wasn't masculine. I had a grandmother that was just queenly. She was above disrespect. She wouldn't even comment if you said something disrespectful. She'd just look at you. And she motivated you to not want to be disrespectful in her presence because she was just so regal. Now she carried herself. She didn't have to argue with you or get in your face or none of that. My grandmother would look at me, and if I had done something stupid, I would just be ashamed that I did it. But more importantly, I'd be ashamed I did it in her presence because she was just, it was just an energy she projected that was above anything petty. Another was my wife. She was in the hospital at least 2 weeks out of every year of her life. And that included every year I knew her. And the thing about it was, if you went to the hospital to visit her, even though she couldn't walk, she couldn't really move, she would actually be more concerned about your well-being than her own. Even your well-being at seeing her ill. She would actually be, talking people through the pain they had looking at her in pain. She was that, she had that kind of element about her. But so much of the time when I see people define strength, it doesn't have anything to do with any notion of femininity. And it's funny because they decry femininity as a social construct, right? But when you look at their definition of strength, it's a purely masculine one. What's up, Charles? What's up, Tim? I'm not really looking at the chat too much, so if I've overlooked you, it's nothing personal. What's up, Christopher? Malika, good brother. Always good to see you. I know I think shouted you out earlier, but had to do it again. What's up, Donnie? Afro Shop. I'm glad to have regulars. It's a blessing. Brothers that, we are brothers in arms. I appreciate y'all's support. Like, share, subscribe, join, donate. Please support the channel. Please support the channel so we can keep these kind of conversations going. So, yeah. Donate to Super Chat, donate to the Cash App. You know what it is. Y'all know how this rolls. Anyway, so, this definition of strength I find highly problematic, but it seems to be what generations have been learning to value. And part of the difficulty is in too many a man's situation, navigating this type of abusive, confrontational definition of strength is a frequent thing. It's a frequent thing. Because each of the three brothers I'm talking to are, when you talk about men checking boxes, all of that, they don't get any more respect than men that don't. And a lot of it comes back to this definition of strength. But you can see in the example I showed in the video clip, if you're dealing with, if mothers like that are the ones raising boys and girls, you can see where a lot of this comes from. Because if she has daughters, what do you think her daughters are going to learn about how to treat men from her behavior? Now, I'm going to play another one. Now, this one's about 5 minutes. And I will say it is rather involved. So it's a little bit longer. Hopefully y'all will find it interesting. In both situations, I feel for the brothers involved. I really do. Check this out. Fair use.
Man, women ain't man. Listen here, and I'm not saying all women ain't, but let me start this by saying this. I don't even do this social media shit. Like I usually don't go on social media. I don't post shit on there. But today, I want to help the next out because I just want to let you know women ain't shit, man. This is from today. I'm at work. I go to work every day. I work hard every fucking day to take care of this woman. I'm talking about paying her bills. I pay for her to go to school. I take care of the kids. I put food in the house. I don't even get EBT. I don't get food stamps. I got to pay for food out my fucking pocket. But let me show y'all this. This is what I see at work. And I don't never check the cameras. Like, I got cameras in my home. This is to protect us. I don't never check the fucking cameras. But today, some told me to check the fucking cameras. I don't know what told me today. God must have spoke to me. What's done in the dark always comes to the light. And today, I'll check the cameras. And this is what the I see. Hold on, y'all. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all what I see. You see this? Can y'all see this? Who the is this? This is my girl in the red pajamas. She holding his hand and shit. Who the bro? I don't think y'all understand how pissed I am right now. Oh, it's more. Oh, it's more. This is them coming into the house. Got me up. These women ain't man. Look at this shit, man. Coming in the this is my house. This is the house I pay for. I pay for these bills. Let her go to school and shit. Look at this shit, man. This is shit I'm seeing at work. I'm on my lunch break. This is the shit I'm seeing at motherfucking work. Highly pissed off right now. She all on top of this shit, man. Trying to tell you, man, these women ain't shit, man. And I'm giving my all into this relationship. All right, it's gonna play back. I'm putting my all into this relationship. And she got a whole motherfucking in my house. Look at this shit, man. Some fucking bullshit, man. Can't know these women ain't. I'm trying to tell you, fellas. I'm trying to tell you. A lot of these women ain't. Look at this shit, man. Look, now they finna go upstairs to the fucking bedroom. The fucking dog, I pay for that fucking dog too. Oh, okay. She don't know I'm here though. It's all good. She don't know I'm here though. But I'm finna go holler at her. I'm all the way up.
Now, real quick, because this happens every time I play videos. Really. First thing I hear people tell me is it's fake. And here's my response. It very well may be. Because we've never actually seen this happen, right? This doesn't occur. See, here's the thing. If you have people who are convincingly making up videos like this for the sake of getting money, resources, clicks, whatever, they have to produce something that resonates with people's experiences. They have to produce something that resonates with what actually happens in the world. And I can't tell you how many times I done heard this story. So I'm not presenting either one of these videos as a historical occurrence. What I'm presenting is a situation that demonstrates a certain type of behavior. Let's check it out.
Got me all the way up. My motherfucking lunch break. This is the shit I gotta deal with. Bullshit, man. Stupid ass. All on the couch, all okay. Give me some motherfucking man. Move. Pay for your ass too. I pay for you too. Don't do shit. Cheat. That's what I should do. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Huh? Who the fuck is this?
What's up, man?
Who the fuck is this?
What's up, bro? What's up?
Ain't no what's up, nothing. Ain't no, what the fuck is this? Mariah, what the fuck is this?
Hey, man, come on, bro. Like,
Ain't no come on, nothing. What the fuck is you doing in my house, bro?
bro, man,
Come
on, man. What's up?
The fuck is you doing in my house, bro?
Yeah, why you what it look like?
It is the fuck you look like it's all on camera.
Why would you
You
bring
don't know I got cameras? Dummy?
Man, this ain't even
Man, bro, I swear to God, bro. The fuck, I got rose petals and shit in here? What the fuck y'all
It's not
doing?
even that type of party.
The fuck is this?
You have the camera.
I got you got servers or something? Y'all got cameras on the house and on my fucking phone to record your
You got the camera. I'm not.
because you're a fucking cheater. I do everything for you. I pay the bills in this house. I do everything for your You got a whole nother in my motherfucking house.
It ain't even
Bro,
what
get the
you
fuck out, bro. I'll you, bro.
You don't.
I'm saying,
I will you, bro. The fuck out
You
my
need to
crib.
calm down.
Ain't no fucking calm down my fucking ass.
I'm sorry.
Man, get the fuck out, bro.
You should have told me that. Come on, man. I didn't know you gave him no man.
Oh, you didn't know? Oh, you didn't know? Yeah,
man,
I pay
don't do
everything.
that.
It's my motherfucking house. The fuck?
You knew.
No.
Oh, you knew? Yeah. You like, oh, and the man, the guy, bro, I'll fuck you up. Man.
I'm sorry. I'm
Alright,
sorry.
What's wrong with you, bro?
Go, bro.
No,
Yeah, your goofy ass out.
Go,
baby, I'm sorry.
Ain't no baby sorry my ass.
Sorry.
The fuck out.
Why do I
You know
have
what?
what am I supposed to do?
Man, get your fuck out my house.
Stop.
man.
Stop.
Get your
Stop.
shit. Get your shit. Get the fuck out my house.
Where am I supposed to
I don't know what the fuck go with this. Get the fuck out, bro.
I'm finna go.
Bro, I'm gonna smack the shit out you, bro. Get the fuck out, bro. If I smack the shit out you.
Come on,
Get the
man.
fuck out, bro. If I smack the shit out you, man.
Are you
Get the fuck out of my fucking crib. Both of you.
I'm supposed to go?
Man, get this fucking dog. No, this dog's staying here. I pay for that. No, I paid for him. You ain't pay for shit.
Dude, I didn't, man,
You ain't
I
worth
didn't
shit.
even know.
Yeah, you did know. She just
No,
said
if I
you knew.
know, I wouldn't have came to
Man,
another
I'm
man's
not
house.
trying to hear none of that shit, bro. Get the fuck out, bro.
I would have never came to another man's house.
Yeah, you did. You is. This is my house. You said it right. Another man's house, my fucking crib, man. out. Grab your shit. I don't give a fuck you is, nigga. Get the fuck out. Both of you.
Bro,
Get the fuck out. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
why you put us in the... You
Stop sitting here and blame me. You should have looked around.
Out my crib, bro. Both of you.
I'm saying, bro.
Goofy ass. You. Mariah, I swear to God, bro. I swear to God, bro. You ain't. You ain't. You know me I could have fucked off? You know me I could have fucked off and I didn't? Get out of here, bro. Why is you still in here? Why is you still in here?
He gotta go.
saying, like,
He gotta go.
Get the fuck out before I'm you, bro. You lucky you motherfucker still breathing because it's me. I'm letting you breathe. The fuck out my crib, bro.
You gotta go.
You gotta go too. The fuck wrong with you? What?
Mm-hmm. How many of y'all known brothers that have dealt with that? One brother in the comment section said he runs a barbershop. Hears about this thing all the time. Yeah. Profound amount of disrespect, right? Yeah. This is a product of, yet again, you know, men's experiences, men's feelings, irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But we see movies about men being unfaithful all the time. Tyler Perry wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for that. Seeing the reverse, not quite as common. Not quite as common. You know what I'm saying? But when I thought about where this kind of disrespect stems from, where this woman, you know, would wait for her man to leave the house and bring someone into his bed and then have nerve to tell him to calm down when he catches her. Which again, fictional or not, I've heard before. I've seen women caught in this situation who will start to try and control the situation by telling him what to do. Real interesting. One of the brothers said it happens in the military a lot. Yeah, and this has been the source of why a number of men have either died or gone to jail or both. Yeah, because here's the thing. If he'd actually shot homeboy, he'd be the one getting locked up. If there was a fight, altercation that broke out, somebody got hurt, he'd be the one going in. Yeah. But the point I'm getting at is more about the disrespect component of it. And so when my boys asked me, where did I think it stemmed from? I thought of a few things, right? There's a few things that came to mind. First thing had to do with the conversation I had on my show last night with Hood Scholar. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out, you might enjoy it. Part of what we went through was the same thing I read from Dr. Tommy Curry's paper a few days ago. We talked about the kind of legacy of how Black men have been seen. And much of this has been produced not only in pop media stereotype, but even in academics or in an academic context, right? Where you actually had ethnologists writing these kind of narratives about Black men being everything from children to weak to effeminate to hyper-masculine rapists. All of this, right? All of these narratives. And the turn in the 1970s where Black feminists, in the 70s and 80s, where Black feminists began to take up this subculture of violence narrative, this fabricated, stereotypical narrative of Black men, and articulate it as if it's true. As Hood Scholar and I talked about in terms of Michelle Wallace's book, Myth of the Black Macho, or is it, I think I've gotten the title wrong. It's Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman. She admits she only got, her perspective on Black men from a couple of men she knew. She was a lit major, wrote a book, I believe in grad school, talking about this, but based her opinion of Black men on a couple of men. And that passed for truth. And then it spread like wildfire. And it reached a whole new crescendo by the time you get to Color Purple, right? And that becomes the dominant narrative of who Black men are. Mr. from Color Purple, right? But at its base, it is a product. Shout out to you, BGS. Hope you're well. It is a product of the kinds of discussions, types of productions, academic and otherwise, about Black men that were fabricated by racists who weren't using anything empirical to come up with their conclusions. They were basing their academic conclusions on racist caricatures. I was showing my students today the film on Jack Johnson. If you haven't checked it out, I think it's over 3 hours. Beautifully done piece, narrated by Samuel Jackson. A lot of people in that. A lot of people in it. Beautiful work on his life. Greg, welcome to the Onyx Report. Thanks for becoming a member. And, you can even see it in there. They show newspaper clippings, the perspective on Black men, but most particularly Jack Johnson, as a caricature in newspapers. So even in parts of the country where you had people who'd never actually seen an African-American person in person, they were learning how to perceive Black men in particular through caricature. And this of course, happened earlier than that, especially by the time you got to the kinds of traveling vaudeville, performances with white men and blackface and that whole kind of thing. That's been going on for a while, but each new form of it reinforced the previous. So in regard to the disrespect I was talking about, our women picked this up and held it up as true. And alongside that, they were given access to resources, access to advancement, or at least symbolic access. They got a few baubles. And for many, they grew up depending on these baubles and seeing women run their households depending on these baubles. But part and parcel to seeing that and being able to accept those resources is to accept that Black men are the caricatures that whites said we were. And they still are saying it in various ways. Greg, appreciate that support. But part of that too, seeing us through stereotypes, seeing us through caricature, also meant that there's a distance between how they saw us and how they see themselves. And this is how you can get such profound disrespect when you're dealing with someone that doesn't even see you as human. Because keep in mind, they are the measure of what's human. And to some extent, that's a human thing as well, right? We have difficulty. You can watch the news and see all kinds of atrocities happen in other countries and be fairly, indifferent about it. But those same atrocities happen in your neighborhood or with your family, you feel very differently. We can actually, have empathy for people that we can identify with. We don't have empathy for those we don't. But the interesting twist here is when many Black women who've been socialized to see Black men through the lens of caricature no longer see Black men as human because they don't see us as being connected to them. Therefore, you can mistreat anybody that you don't see as human. Hell, that's one of the features of warfare, right? You demean your enemy to a caricature so that you can do the most inhumane things, sometimes for the sake of survival, sometimes for the sake of blatant warfare and oppression. Either way, it begins with dehumanizing your enemy. It's hard to dehumanize somebody you have empathy for and you see as a human being and you care about through an extension of caring about yourself, right? So that's the first one. Black women seeing us through stereotype and seeing no real connection between us. Because there's no way in the world that mother who's holding up those instruments that her son is using to masturbate with and demeaning him on social media, there's no way in the world she'd let anybody do that to her and laugh about it. The women that were laughing in that comment section wouldn't allow a woman to go through that and laugh at her because they see other women as themselves. So the second one, I told a couple of the brothers, I said, the other aspect of this is that defiance and argumentativeness are considered badges of honor among our women, the way they're socialized. Defiance and argumentativeness, they're seen as badges of honor. They're seen as markings of strength. And in many respects, many of these women will talk about how they inherited their behavioral tropes from female elders and media, right? Female elders and media. They've grown up watching this be the primary mode of interaction between far too many Black women and men. But they'll never quite hold the women accountable. They'll do exactly what the women in those situations do. They'll frame the men's behavior or what he's accused of as the reason for her behavior. But people actually need to be adult. You can handle situations in all kinds of ways, But what is considered a badge of honor amongst our women? Defiance and argumentativeness. You know, that's that narrative I told you guys about earlier, where even older women, we even would tell boys, oh, she'll be a good match for you. She don't take your shit. Yeah, I like her. Word. So being cooperative is synonymous with taking a man's shit. In too many circles in our community, that's the case. Third thing I talked about with some of them, some of the brothers, was, you know, the definition of masculinity, the definition of manhood that many of our women use. And you can take this back to the plantation. If the definition comes with boxes that need to be checked, then that's pretty much a constant, you know, income, social status, social access, aspirationalism, you know, resources. I just watched the video a little earlier on Pink Book Channel, and Rick Ross was on a blind date, and they literally had him blindfolded, you know, on a date with a woman. He asked her what would be a good Valentine's gift. She said a Bentley. He met this woman 20 minutes prior. She said she wanted a Bentley. He said, what you driving now? She said a Ford. Right? But that's what we're talking about. The standards that manhood, black manhood in particular, is measured against are standards that are not only unrealistic, but structurally, they are standards that black men have been barred from, even by policy. And those policies have really become more veiled, but they're not gone. And whether you're talking about redlining, whether you're talking about, you know, the man in the house rule, these kinds of policies were designed, and there were plenty more. They were designed and structured to keep black men, most particularly, underdeveloped. Even voting policies. Hell, we got the right to vote before 1870. Weren't able to exercise it until 1964, and that was still at the threat of loss of life. And voting means that you might be able to actually change the nature of your environment through policy. So by not being able to access that right of being a citizen, further underdeveloped. You're not able to change the nature of the environment to suit what it is you're doing. This is particularly targeted at black men. So we're being measured, and we always have been, although it was not always this extreme. You know, your great grandmother's generation, she didn't get with men that would, you know, only get with men that could afford to buy her a Bentley. It was ridiculous. I never even heard of anybody in my grandmother's generation who told a man that he had to be a millionaire to get with her, and she come from the same hood. Anyway, I'm not saying materialism didn't exist, but it's gotten way out of control now. The point I'm getting at is the standard that black men are measured by is ridiculous and unrealistic. It's a standard that only about 5% reach, if that. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. None at all. It's class warfare in a very veiled, gendered context. And I can tell you, even some of the things I've been seeing on YouTube this last few days are rooted in class warfare, and I can't get with it. I do not support class warfare, especially among black men. We got enough of it coming from all kinds of different circles, and we're still grappling with the class warfare we got to deal with in our own families and in our own relationships. I ain't trying to add to the shit. Far too many of us come from poverty. My family was on welfare at a particular point in time. I only got through college on loans. I didn't have a silver spoon. I look like turning around telling people they ain't shit because of what they don't have. Please. I mean, look, all I'm saying at the end of the day is that the standard in and of itself that our women have been taught to embrace, especially Gen X and younger, because this really kicks up in the 1980s. It wasn't quite as prevalent in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but definitely in the 1980s, this becomes a thing where black men have to somehow become supermen. But the interesting thing is all black women are on the same plane, right? Regardless of what they have, regardless of what they don't have. Black men, however, only 5% are good enough, in theory. But the reality is when you talk to men, like the three men I started this video on, they all check boxes. They all check the boxes that we were told starting in the 80s we needed to be able to check. Are you over 6 feet tall? Check. Do you make six figures? Check. Do you own your own home? Check. Do you have a car? Check. Do you live with your mother? No. Check. Are you worthy of respect? No. And none of those brothers were weak, unintelligent, lacked ambition. I mean, none of them lacked ambition. They were all productive black men who checked boxes, still weren't considered worthy of basic level respect. So that was the third thing, the standard we're measured against. Fourth one is that you have a lot of brothers who are unwilling to be controlled or dominated by the woman they're with. This is a source of frustration for a lot of women who, and as I said earlier, seek to dominate who they're with. And it puts you in a very jacked up catch-22. Because if you let her dominate you, she doesn't respect you. Oh, she might marry you and have kids with you, but it doesn't mean she respects you. You're a placeholder. You are there for her entertainment, but if you let her dominate you, she doesn't respect you. You're just a useful idiot until you're not. And then you get to see her in family court. Good luck with that. That's if you do let her dominate you. If you don't let her dominate you, she'll kind of have a modicum of respect for you. But here's the thing. She won't stop trying. Doesn't end. And I know a lot of brothers that have been trying to do as well as they can in a relationship to earn her willingness to comply and cooperate or just be civil in a relationship and accept the fact that he's strong. He's not going to let you dominate him, but he cares for you and he's in your corner. And they hope that that would be enough. Far too much of the time do I hear from brothers, it's nowhere near enough because it doesn't end. The disrespect doesn't end. The attempt to dominate doesn't end. But at the end of the day, this attempt to dominate and control men is rooted in insecurity. Really is rooted in insecurity. And this is the last point I made about where this disrespect stems from, right? It is an extension. It is, or I should say, it is an unwillingness to trust black men and thus an expression of insecurity. But it's born of the stereotypes that have been used to define us. So we come full circle. They don't trust us. They attempt to control out of fear. But why don't they trust? Because of the stereotypes. You know how many students I've had, female students, that will tell me the fears they have of dealing with black men. And when they give you the reasons, they're the most horrible situations possible. And when you ask, where do you get these from? Have you experienced these things that you're talking about? Well, no. Your girlfriends? Well, one, she's a friend of a friend of a friend. Or she saw it in a movie. Or it was a story she was passed down, it was passed down from female elder. But this is real. This is what we talk about when we talk about institutionalized misandry. We're talking about ideas, practices, and even policies that are handed down and have an influence on people's behavior to the point where you have somebody that can't see you for who you are, no matter what you do, no matter what you've achieved, no matter what you've earned. Now, I'm not at all saying that that's all people and all of that crap, but it is far too many, because I've had these conversations far too often, and I've had written to for the last 10 years over shit like this, long before I ever came onto social media. I got students from over 20 years ago who are writing it. I mean, they were kids when I knew them. Now they're married with kids, sending me stories just about the stuff their wives are doing to them. And I can't pretend like it doesn't exist, because a lot of the time it's the same shit I've been through. So those are the 5 that I'm offering to you as my theories about the base of the disrespect, the undue disrespect black men experience. Not at all suggesting that this is exhaustive. I'm actually anxious to hear what you think are some of these causes. I'm not suggesting that these 5 are the end all to be all. These are just the ones I see. Seeing us through stereotype, right? It's what they've been handed down from their elders and from media, measuring us against elite white men, being upset about our unwillingness to be dominated and controlled, and really dealing with an insecurity and a fear of black men rooted in ideas and stereotypes about us that have been used to pathologize us in their imagination And how do you fight that when they got it from their mothers or their grandmothers? What do? A lot of Black men will fight to be the example of how they are not what they're accused of being. And yet, you can't fight an idea, especially if she's unwilling to engage the fact that it's an idea. When she treats it as a fact that's been reinforced by multiple generations. So I say there's about 4 solutions I look to. And this is something that Black men just have to do. Maybe that will change their behavior, but that's not what this is about. Solutions. First thing I would say is Black men, we need to require respect at the beginning. It is the basic cost of your attention. That's step number 1. It's basic. It's like, it should be like oxygen. Shouldn't even be up for conversation. I'm really not trying to hang out anywhere I can't breathe. That should be the attitude. Basic respect is the cost of your attention and your time. And if she demonstrates very early on that she can't pay that toll, you should know what to do. And I'm going to tell you, that may need to include anybody in your space, family, friends, lovers, wives, whatever. If basic respect is not given, and if she can start to tell you why you shouldn't have it, especially when she's not being honest, that's even more reason. No. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you actually don't deserve respect and you need to up your quality of being, then that should be your focus. Now, you still maintain or develop, if you don't have one, a sense of self. A sense of self where you are not going to be around people that don't respect you. But if you know that you need work, that there's work you need to do on yourself to be worthy of respect in a more general sense, then you need to be doing that work. Third, differentiate between stereotype and reality when people deal with you. Check them. Make sure you're very clear about how people treat you, how they engage you, and clarify if how they engage you is rooted in the wrong motivations. But here's the thing. You also don't have to do their work for them. And you know what? I consider me telling it, look, if I tell you how what you're doing is problematic and why, it's mostly because I care. Now, in a professional sense, that's different. I might write papers, do presentations, that's different. But in an interactive, one-on-one kind of way, if I bother to tell you, check you about your behavior and explain where you're getting it from and how it really doesn't apply to me, that's because I care. But it is a gift that I'm giving. I don't have to do your work for you. And I often won't. I stopped doing it years ago. In many situations, I stopped checking people. I just, like I said, if it's a gift I give, and if I choose not to give it, you keep digging yourself a hole. I ain't gonna help you. I'm not gonna do your work for you. If I do your work for you by checking you, it's because I care and I'm trying to help. Lastly, I would say, fellas, protect your spirit at all costs. And if necessary, gift her and yourself with your absence. Do not tolerate bullshit. And this is something I think far too many brothers have grown accustomed to. We were taught that taking bullshit from women was not only who we are or who we're supposed to be, it's what it meant to be not only a good man, but a good Black man. Nah. Eating feces is not the mark of a good man. Kissing people's ass when they give you their ass to kiss is not the mark of a good man. Have some dignity. Have some pride in yourself. Not arrogance, just pride in yourself. Don't take nothing that you know nobody else would take. So anyway, I hope y'all have a good one. I just wanted to drop that in real quick because I see it too often. And I really want Black men to reassess this relationship with disrespect that we've grown far too accustomed with. I think it's time to turn the shit on its head. So that being said, fellas, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me tonight. Like, share, subscribe, join, donate, support the channel, and please stop taking shit. You're better than that. And if you're not, make yourself better than that. But still don't take shit. Life's too fucking short. Peace.